Hi there, it's Fran Davidson from psychicandenergywork.com.au. It's been a while in terms of videos. Today I'm experimenting. I'm taking my monthly updates, which happen around the middle of each month, as a way of updating on my monthly observations, which I put to my website, psychicandenergywork.com.au, on the first of every month. So in a sense, on the first of every month, you get a look or a perspective that is about what this month, this whole month is going to be. Whereas today, or at least the monthly updates, are about having a halfway check on that conversation and hopefully an extension on some of what I've said or written. Please, as you'll hear, there's an airplane flying above, so please excuse that from time to time. As luck would have it, usually when I start recovering, the planes start flying. The other aspect to apologise for is that I have cheat sheets today, so from time to time I'm going to look down and away from the camera. So if I am, it's because I'm trying to gather my thoughts, keep myself on track and bring out the next point. Anyway, today obviously it's the middle of August 2023, and at this point of the proceedings, not necessarily because this is the only moment that I could have said these things, and probably it isn't the only moment I've said these things all through the year, but this year is of course a 7 year. 2023, 2023 adds down to a 7. In numerology, there's 3 main numbers. There's the birth number, which is 2023 in this year's case. Then there's the name, which is all of the words and therefore the numbers associated with each letter in the name. Yeah, and then there's the reality number. So the middle one, the name, tells us how we're going to achieve certain states and outcomes, or even just how we're going to be asked to learn and develop this year. The birth date tells us what we're about to stretch into and be invited to look at, develop into, even quite possibly at times reject. Then the reality number tells us the ultimate end points, states, and therefore, again, spiritual development milestones in a sense, the energies or the vibes we come to channel more or less, better or worse, by the end of a period. So why am I saying these things? Because this year's chart not only has a birth number of 7, it has a reality number of 7. And what that means is that already we're getting the hint that 7 energies, 7 dynamics are going to play through more. Now, the joy of that is that 7 is all about spirituality. It's all about meditation, not because spirituality just has to be aligned to that as an activity, because of course, yes, meditation is just one of many things that can help us come back to base, ground, center, get clear of the outside world in a way that we're channeling intuitively and spiritually yet again. And when I say channeling, I'm not just talking, hello, psychic work or intuitive moments in a cliche sense, but what I'm trying to acknowledge is, of course, we are here as intuitive beings, not just physical, mental, emotional beings. And of course, those levels aren't to be sneezed at, but neither is the intuitive. And the period 2000, as in the century 2000, is all about helping us all integrate with our spiritual side on a very genuine, practical, and therefore physical as intangible, palpable, delivered form. Yeah, which of course we're all in the process of doing, however we are. So come back to 7. 7 is spirituality. 7 is that moment where we let go of everything we've been in and reconnect with the universe again in a way that there's nothing else going through our mind. There is no narrative, chatter, busyness, distraction, tension even. 7, therefore, is that point that we get to absolute stillness, in a way that through that we're also in that moment very aware that there is something more to life than just us. 7, therefore, on one level can be seen as that moment that we truly connect to source, divine intelligence, the universe, whatever you call it. in a way that we are trading what we know, what we've learned, what we've come to think and frame life as being. We're trading all of that, not because we're discounting it or rejecting it, throwing it away, but because we're realizing, you know what, whenever I have the moment to connect again with universal wisdom, I end up having a greater perspective. Because the universe, source, whatever you call it, it is very much an intelligence. It's an intelligent energy. It's not just a servant to human desire or will. It's there to help us on our path in a way that is very much there to help in a way that all are helped at the same time. And therefore it's an energy that asks for integrity. And the only way we get to integrity is to let go of all egoic narrative. Everyone's, including our own, from time to time, probably on a regular basis, in a way that is about, okay, so I know what I know and I feel what I feel and I've seen what I've seen, but now what can Source tell me? How can Source add value through my ability to actually create the space for it to actually communicate and download to me over and above all that it's been doing so far? So 7 is very much that dance between what the human knows and what the universe knows. And it's not because either needs to be seen, specifically the human, needs to be seen as bad or faulty or limited. And yet, of course, being partly egoic, we often end up in limit, even if we're doing our best and being really good at that. At the end of the day, egoic self is such that it always binds the view. It always puts a fence line around things. And of course, sometimes that it does that in really productive, constructive ways. But sometimes too, it can end up over-limiting, over-narrowing our view in a way that we can, especially when life's a bit challenging, weird, unknown, all of the things that these last few months have sort of thrown in a lot of people's direction. Often at those points, we can start to give up our faith. And when I say faith, yes, all right, that could be religious faith. But really what I'm talking about is our knowledge for a fact that, again, the universe is real. It is incredibly communicative. It's not that it's never there. It's just that we can often shut all the doors and windows in a way that it just can't get through our own narrative. Or predictions, which of course is a narrative in itself. Pause for thought, I'm looking down. These last few months have been tough for a lot of people. Come July 1st particularly, not because it necessarily started then, but around the beginning of July, it threw big curveballs for people. This year is so about helping people redefine, or not necessarily redefine themselves, but in a way that, it needs to automatically mean change, but redefine in a way that is, are you sure you're that now? Are you sure this is what you need now? Are you sure this is what life is now? Because, of course, life isn't just a canvas. It's not just something that we paint onto. It's actually a very real flow. It's a very real energy. It's a very real entity in that sense. And so when we have moments that jar, surprise in a way that, whoa, what's happening? Yeah, and it may not even be like that. It might just be, you know what, there's a whole lot of unknowns. And because 7 is a 7, because this year is a 7 year, this year is also a time where too much head stuff is more loud as a dynamic, as an event, as an experience. And even if a person knows these things and also how to get out of them, you with me, or even just how to manage them, 7 can be a time that sees us more in our heads, in the chatter, in like, I can't turn off, I can't get out of that. And implicit in that is also technological energies. Now, I don't use those words because I'm being anti or negative. Yeah, and yet the digital realm, the use of technology, it can be more aligned, or it is more aligned with the mental realm by way of feel, by way of behavior, by also its way to, in a sense, pull you in a way that it's not so easy when that's loud to extricate oneself from it, even if one knows that they're supposed to be doing that, or it would be really, really good. So 7 is the sort of place where even if you're keeping up with your spiritual practice and you're looking after yourself and you're having good quality time out and peace and quiet with Source, this is a time that often, even though you do that, okay, so I just did that, wonderful, and then the next 10 seconds you're right back in it again, but not necessarily because you plan to be. So 7 can keep people in head stuff. It can pull us into head stuff. And part of that is to help us, yes, realize how we are getting caught up in the egoic narrative. In other words, the narrative that is about, I can know too much at times. That doesn't render, again, what I know as useless or negative or completely unproductive. But again, egoic self is very inclined to put things in boxes. It's very inclined to say, you know what, I know now, in a way that very subtly in that there is no room for newness to come in. So if we come back to 7 and if we come back to the sort of turn of this half year, certainly a whole lot of aspects, not just numerological, astrological as well, not because that was the only time they started either, but this year in one sense you could say has sort of been doing people's heads in, at least a few people, on all of these levels. This year is a time, again, that is about opening up into the new, into the possible, in a way that, you know what, you may have been doing X, Y, Z up until this point really well, all of your life, or even just a part of it. But that doesn't mean you have to keep doing it now. Do you want to? Do you need to? Is it the best? So that also helps to explain why so many things are unknown right now and why there are so many hot pokers coming at people from all different angles, or at least some people right now. Because in a sense, the universe is trying to say, hey, 7, in one sense, 7 is again what I know, what I have come to know. And therefore 7 can be read at some levels as habit, pattern, what we have become acclimatized or accustomed to, in a way that, okay, so in that moment that change presents in an uninvited way, in an unexpected way, especially when it's not so, hello, I really like that, 7 can present or manifest as what's going on, what's wrong with me, why is life doing this to me? So 7 can see us because of our models, because of our very subtle projections about, you know what, today happened like that and yesterday happened like that, so therefore tomorrow's going to happen like that. And then life throws a curveball in a way that, hang on a minute, that mathematical equation isn't working anymore, in a very palpable, meaningful and important way. So 7 at that point can see egoic self nosediving into doubt, anxiety, worry, uncertainty. And of course, all those things are very human responses. So again, by labeling them, what I'm not suggesting is one shouldn't be there. We will be there for the time that we need to be there whenever we are asked to evolve or stretch or grow in a way that we haven't chosen, and in a way that's not necessarily covered in roses and candy and nice, warm, fluffy things to begin with anyway. So 7 can therefore breed lack of faith. And again, when I say lack of faith, I'm not talking religious, even though that can be part of it. And even though on one level it is, but it is more about what is faith. Faith on a spiritual, manifesting, energetic level, devoid of religion, if that's the way to say it. It is very much just the fact that I know life is always doing what it's doing to help me somehow, and it's always doing what it's doing to help not just me but everybody. So it's about that place when all of a sudden we become mindful of the fact that, hang on, so change can come not just for my sake, good or bad, it also comes for everybody else's sake, because the divine is about everybody winning at the same time. It's about everyone is equal. Everyone can go through that door at the same time. Nobody has to be subordinated by anything. Big statements, hey? And often the way that we subordinate ourselves, let alone one another, is by allowing egoic self to have too much of the microphone for too long a phase. I'm looking down again, bear with me. So yes, 7 is that point where we come again, when we return through, in a sense, that level of overwhelm, or you know what, I can't get out of my head. You know, I've got to quiet and I've got to come back to peace and quiet. 7 is that moment where we return to that very palpable, energetic, felt state that, you know what, source is there. Life is there. There is something more than just me versus the rest of the world. And it's not because I don't matter in that my actions don't matter, my input and activity, actualizing doesn't matter. Yeah? And it's not because the rest of the world doesn't matter, but it's because if I remember this moment for long enough, I will conduct myself as a spiritual channel that is guided and connected through everything. And the more we remember that and come to that, however we choose to, the more actually we tend to receive guidance as we go, step by step, day to day. So if I wrap all of that up in a sense, 7 is that moment where we let go of that part of ourselves, the overly mindful self, the overly knowing self, predicting self, affirming self, faithless self. It is that moment where we let go of that, not because we're rejecting it or squashing it down, but we're just parking it to one side. We're asking it to take a chair whilst we actually get on and help mentor it through back into optimism, out of doubt, out of pessimism. Because at the end of the day, doubt, pessimism, negativity, this is a really easy statement to make here, but any of those states, any sense of life's not okay or I'm not okay, whether that's just a thought thing, whether that's a felt thing or even an experience thing, any sense of life is not peace, life is not okay, I am alone. You with me? My path is bad. Yeah, I'm going to miss out. Any sense of negativity, however it presents, it in itself is already a flag that we are too much in the egoic wavelengths. Being human, we will often be there, especially in a 7 year. But it is a flag. And so the minute we remember that, and often we don't remember, especially in intense moments, we don't remember it to begin with. Why? Because it's a bit like, okay, so if I had a basketball right now, and if I lobbed it at you full force, the first thing you're going to do is catch it. Why? To stop it from hitting you. Yeah. So too in the energetic level, when something comes full force, especially when it's unseen, yeah, and it's loud and it's don't know what to do with that, don't really understand how it fits in a good picture. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick that, we're going to catch that moment and we're going to hold it. Egoic self in anybody as a dynamic, not as a personality. Egoic self will keep holding the ball. And through that, it will start to say the world is this ball and nothing else. And it is only through remembering that that's not the case, that actually, you know what, the divine is real, divine energies do exist. And if I just open up to them again, not because I call them in, not because I tell them what to do, but just because, hello, they're real. They know they can help me. They're trying to help me. So therefore, I let go of the ball for a minute, just in case the ball is not all of life. I let go of the ball to give the universe enough space between the ball and me to actually send in new energy, new messages, new help and guidance to actually help me through what the ball's brought. I'm looking down again. Again, all of these sorts of responses, you know, those responses that in a sense come out of the fact that an individual has been jarred or shocked or whatever, yeah, let down. All of these things stem from the fact that for all of us, models guide us. All models can be incredibly useful for the time they're being useful. But of course, egoic self, again, it's a gatherer, it's an acquirer, which means it'll grab a model before we even know it's grabbed a model, yeah? And it'll glue it in. And then it'll start doing the A plus B equals C routine again in a way that squeezes the rest of the alphabet of reality out, or possibility out of the picture, yeah? So the non-conformance of life and flow to what self predicts often unconsciously, often unknowingly. In other words, you know what? I woke up yesterday and then life was like this. Today's going to be the same, surely. Even that is a model. That doesn't render it bad. It doesn't render the human faulty or wrong in doing that. It's just egoic self is a part of everyone. And from time to time, it gets into its predictions and its forecasts. The trouble with that is that when life presents in an unexpected way, i.e. in a way that is running counter to everything we've predicted, not consciously, then all of a sudden we can start to feel a bit angsty because, hang on, new ground, what's going on? Egoic self likes constancy, it likes certainty, it likes predictability, it likes bankability, And so when these things aren't happening in a very real, palpable, experienced way, it can get a bit frazzled. I'm looking down. Through this, we then start to generate, any of us, I'd argue, in such a moment, we start to generate doubt and pessimism, as I was saying before. But you see, every thought, every feeling, every affirmation we have, is an energy. It is an instruction to the universe, let alone the rest of the creation. So it's a bit like, okay, so I might be a very clear tower, blue sky all around me, and then something happens and whether it's because the something actually projected energy my way or whether it's just something happened and because of my expectations or assumptions, I then created a little cloud pattern that's now sitting around the head, let alone anywhere else, of that tower, starting to get in the way of its ability to see the landscape as clearly as it could and as clearly as it was in the moments before that cloud pattern and that event hit. That cloud pattern, depending on its extremeness and also depending on the individual and the path they're here to tread and the phase that they're in. So what I'm trying to acknowledge there is that when somebody's of a master number vibration or in a master number phase, all of these experiences can be louder in a very invisible way, in a very sort of, I know there's something there, but I can't quite grab it and I can't quite make sense of it. And it's because it's invisible, because it's like unexplainable in this moment, that can see me reacting more extremely into limit, into pessimism, into doubt and worry. Through these things, then, we start to emit what could be seen as repelling energies, like attracts like. And everything that's good likes a good place to hang out in. So positive vibes like to hang out with positive people, states, beings, So that doesn't mean positive vibes don't go to anyone or anything that's sitting in another form of state. Of course they do. That's how we get insights. It's how we get breakthroughs. It's how the universe rescues us from time to time in spite of our own actions and thoughts and feelings. However, when we are in that moment of holding that ball, still in shock, still in, what's happening? Where am I going? What's going to happen next? It's a bit like, those energies that we emit through our thoughts, through our responses, through our feelings, our affirmations again. So these things, they tend to create an energetic billboard somewhere around us that's saying, you know what? I'm not totally in a good place. And therefore, it's sort of sending a message of, well, therefore, goodness, don't visit me like you were gonna. You with me? We're not. We move ourselves in that moment out of being just a magnet for good or more good. You with me? More peace, more integrity, more breakthrough, more of everything we know that can happen. But it's just not, for whatever reason, we're just being thwarted. When in fact, usually, we're thwarting ourselves. So, what I'm trying to get at, again, is that negativity, doubt, pessimism, the minute you catch yourself doing it, you're already being given a hint from the universe, hey, you need to clear. You need to come back to your spiritual connection, to the big picture, not because you're going to throw yours away or reject it as accurate or valid, justified, reasonable, normal, healthy human stuff given the context you're in. It's always normal, healthy human stuff, given the context one is in. And yet we can always go higher again. We can always access again divine intelligence in a way that gives us a bigger sense, a wider sense of what's going on, and often within that moment starts to lead us on our way more peacefully, with more awareness or understanding, even if we're still having a hard day. Just doing this stuff can see flow re-emerging, whether flow is insight, guidance, and therefore intuitive, you with me, messages, whether flow is relationship stuff, all of a sudden, you know what, those issues aren't there anymore. They seem to be dissolving. Something shifted. Yeah. Whether it's because it's things like cash flow, employment, yeah, manifesting or attracting on that level. Yeah. Flow contains all of creation, and everything starts on the energetic level. And so therefore our job as channels, but also as spiritual beings, in other words, as beings who now in this century aren't so allowed to just look after themselves. Spirituality matters, and the universe is in the process of training us all on that in a way that is about helping us further integrate practically, physically, palpably, therefore day-to-day, constant, in a spiritual sense with the rest of our reality. In other words, become practically spiritual human beings with awareness. So how can we do these things? At the end of the day, how can you help yourself through these moments? You know, there are so many ways to do it, but probably the number one thing is always use breath, right? Always remember your breath. And at the end of the day, you are always using your breath, right? So breathe in through nose, out through mouth, never through just one orifice. That's not me saying that those sorts of breathing techniques cannot be incredibly effective. But what I've found is that it's only when we're breathing in through nose and out through mouth that the egoic dynamics truly release from the body. And often the last place they release from is here, jaw, very subtly. Don't believe me? Test it. Try it out. Work it out for yourself, always. So as you're using breath in through nose, out through mouth, for the count of 4 or 5 each way, yeah, abdominally, not just with your lungs, yeah, but in a way that you enjoy, in a way that your body's going, oh, love that breath. Not I'm, hyperventilating or exerting, willing. Never use will with intuitive work. It only creates the wrong states ultimately. So as you're breathing, let all atoms go. Let them shift, let them move. Let them move to where they need to. Atoms are intelligent, they're moving all the time. But when we are overly in the egoic realm, we start to seize them, we start to freeze them and contain them like birds in a cage. So the job when you're using your breath, and you can use your breath anywhere, right? So you don't have to close your eyes to use your breath. You can if you want. You don't have to do spiritual stuff. Yeah, as in, sit cross-legged or meditate. Yeah, not because they're bad things, but you don't have to be doing that. You could be sitting on a bus. Yeah, you could be walking in a park. You'd be doing the shopping. And hello, you know what? I feel really tense right now. Yeah, I feel really sort of pessimistic right now. Breathe it out. Let all atoms move, not just your own. Let all pessimism move, not just your own. Because sometimes we are caught up in the collective. Sometimes we get caught up and attached to other people's stuff. And that doesn't render anyone in the picture lesser or better. It's just that is energetic reality. Looking down again. So within that, let the landscape clear. Let the divine have creation back. Stop seizing it. Stop being source with all your knowledge, with all your thoughts, with all your angsting. Let the divine have the world back. And in a way that is about, hello, you're in charge, not me. You deal with it first. In other words, in that moment, I stop positioning myself in a way that everything comes through me and everything is about me and everything has to happen because of me. In other words, the divine isn't real. It's not even in the landscape. So use breath, let all atoms go, and let the universe back in to help you, to guide you. Even if you're not quite sure about this stuff, just give it a whirl. Because usually when we do this in a way that we're genuinely sussing it out, usually the universe will go, boo, I'm real, in a way that you can't deny. Looking down again. So within that, breathe to let go of all inattention. Yeah, tension is an energy. Everything is an energy. Negativity is just a wavelength. That doesn't mean there aren't concepts in there and statements and issues that we can all look at, learn from, and grow through and with and because of. Yeah. But you see, at the end of the day, it's just a vibe. And the more we know that, the more we can let go of the vibe. You with me? The dynamics at that level of mindfulness, at that level of egoic self or negativity and protection. Let go of all tension, let go of all doubt, let go of all worry, because it could well be, yeah, it's yours, but it could also be that you've been caught up in a collective in a way that therefore that's magnifying it. And it's not until you let go of all, including your own, that things often really truly shift. Mm-hmm. And then within this, allow yourself to keep using your breath in that moment until such time as you feel it's cleared. So often when we're doing this sort of work, we feel energy moving. We feel the body sort of shifting. Sometimes at first you might start to feel, oh my goodness, my shoulder's going off, getting a bit of a headache. There's a bit of a pressing here, whatever. Yeah, wherever as well. It's not always up here. It can always be at the big toe. But just let energy move. Don't hold things. Don't hold pain, discomfort. Let it move. Because sometimes, again, that pain and discomfort, it's just an energetic rhythm that's parked, in your place or in your energetic field, or in your body, whether you've created it or not. And it started to grow. Why? Because egoic self has started to contain it. It started to own it. It started to make it about itself. As we all do. So I hope these words, I hope what I've run through has been useful. I hope it benefits you at this point in August 2023. I hope also that this video has come across well. So please give me feedback, irrespective of the medium you're using. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you need a hand with this sort of stuff, or you just want to learn about it, or even just get some energy work done, like readings, healings, whatever, spirit work, please get in contact. If you go through to www.psychicandenergywork.com.au, you'll find my contact details there. And of course, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest. So all the very best for the rest of August, let alone the rest of life and the year. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully I'll get to talk to you or see you soon.